The coin in question is commonly called the Jefferson nickel, featuring Thomas Jefferson, the third U.S. president and principal author of the Declaration of Independence. While it doesn't say liberty as its main title, the word liberty is inscribed on the obverse front side, next to Jefferson's profile. The 1984 nickel was minted during a stable economic period in the U.S. and saw wide circulation. It was not a commemorative coin but a regular circulation piece. Still, some 1984 nickels have become interesting to collectors due to minting anomalies and historical continuity. The Jefferson nickel design was first introduced in 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel. Felix Schlag, a German-American sculptor, won a competition to design the coin. His design remained mostly unchanged until 2004. Obverse front features a left-facing bust of Jefferson with the word, "In God We Trust Liberty," and the date 1984. Shows Jefferson's Virginia home, Monticello, with the words "E pluribus unum," Monticello 5 cents, and United States of America. Some 1984 Liberty 5-cent coins have gained value due to minting errors. Double die obverse DDO, look for doubled letters "In Liberty" or "In God We Trust." Off-center strikes, part of the design is missing or shifted. Clipped plankets, a part of the coin's edge is clipped. Die cracks and cuts, imperfections in the metal from worn dies. Coins with such errors can fetch $20 to over $150 depending on condition and rarity. Proof coins, San Francisco Mint. Proof coins were made for collectors. Coin value depends heavily on grade. Circulated coins have wear and are common, usually worth face value. Uncirculated or mint state MS65 or higher coins are rare and collectible. Certified error coins or full steps Monticello nickels, a sharp, clear back design, are valued higher. Jefferson's image stood for independence and democratic values, while Monticello evoked his intellectual legacy. The nickel was part of almost every pocket, vending machine, and transaction, although billions were minted. Finding pristine examples today, especially those with full steps, rare errors, or certified by grading agencies, is rare. Collectors seek these coins to complete the anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It replaced the Indian head cent and marked the first time a real person, President Lincoln, appeared on U.S. currency. The coin was designed by Victor David Brenner, whose initials VDB originally appeared prominently on the reverse but were later removed due to public backlash. In 1939, the world was on the brink of massive upheaval. World War II had just begun in Europe, although the United States remained officially neutral until 1941. The economic and political climate was tense. Domestically, America was still recovering from the Great Depression, and the government had initiated programs under Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal to stabilize the economy. Coins like the 1939 wheat penny circulated heavily during this time, serving both as currency and as symbols of American resilience. The Philadelphia version was produced in very large quantities, making it common. However, the Denver and San Francisco versions are more sought after due to lower mintage numbers. Pennies until 1943, when the U.S. Mint switched to steel due to wartime copper shortages. While many 1939 wheat pennies are still in circulation or found in old collections, coin collectors value examples in mint state MS condition, especially those with rare errors or variations such as double die obverse DDO or off-center strikes are even more prized. Value of the 1939 Liberty wheat penny. Collectors hunt for these varieties in the 1939 series. The Lincoln penny, including the 1939 edition, symbolizes honesty, leadership, and perseverance. It's a tribute to Abraham Lincoln's legacy and to the working-class Americans who used these coins daily during challenging times. The 1939 Liberty wheat penny might appear modest in appearance, but its story is rich with history. Minted during a pivotal year in world history, it represents an era of economic struggle, political transition, and national determination. Whether you're a seasoned numismatist or a beginner collector, the 19th mint state 1935 pennies that exist today likely came from sealed bank rolls or mint bags, untouched for decades. Most of those are already in collector hands or graded slabs, making fresh discoveries increasingly rare. That's why a 1935 penny in MS67 road condition with full red luster and no wear is not just rare, it's extraordinary. Here are just a few highlights from major coin sales. A 1935 MS67 road Lincoln cent sold for $4,200 at Heritage Auctions. A 1935 DMS 67 road went for $3,800. due to near-perfect surfaces and blazing red color. 1935p, with a double die obverse fetched over $2,500 in an era coin auction. The numbers tell the story. These coins are no longer just 1-cent pieces. They're historical assets. Rare 1935. Wheat pennies can still be found if you know where to search. Old coin albums or jars, especially family collections, estate sales, and antique shops often overlooked by non-collectors. Coin roll hunts, unsearched. Wheat penny rolls from dealers or auctions. Bank vault collections, retired rolls. The Jefferson nickel, first introduced in 1938, still carried the same face, a reminder of stability in an uncertain time. That year, the U.S. Mint quietly struck hundreds of millions of 5-cent coins. Most would circulate for decades, but a small number were different. Some were near flawless, others bore mistakes, and those are the nickels that collectors now treasure. The 1978 Jefferson nickel carried the same classic design used since 1938. The image of Monticello, Jefferson's Virginia home. Alongside are the words E pluribus unum, United States of America, and 5 cents. This design had stood for 40 years by 1978 and would remain until 2003. The most valuable versions are those graded MS-66 or higher with full steps designation on the Monticello building. This means every step on the reverse is fully visible and sharply struck, something that rarely happens due to worn dies and weak strikes. On the reverse side of the nickel, Monticello steps are a test of strike quality. To earn the full steps FS designation, a coin must show 5 or 6 clear, unbroken lines on the steps. Few coins meet this requirement. Most suffer from blurred or incomplete detail. 1978 Jefferson nickel with full steps in MS-67 condition has sold for over $2,000. Well-centered clipped planchette can be worth $150 to $600. Raised bumps or breaks in the coin design caused by damaged dies, while less dramatic, they can still be worth $50 to $200 if prominent. These sales are real, and they're growing more common as collectors hunt overlooked modern gems. High-grade or error nickels are found in surprising places. Coins like this reward curiosity. They show how even mass-produced currency can hold surprises. If you know what to look for, whether it's full steps perfection or a dramatic mint error, the value is real. And for some lucky finders, it turns into cash in the thousands. One nickel, one date, and thousands of hidden. The 1949 Liberty wheat penny may be hiding a value that far exceeds its humble denomination. Born in the shadow of World War II and minted during the dawn of post-war recovery, the 1949 wheat penny is more than a coin. It's a piece of American resilience. Some versions of this simple cent have sold for thousands of US dollars, not because of what they bought in 1949, but because of what they represent today. Let's uncover the story of this often overlooked penny and why collectors are still searching tirelessly for its rarest and most valuable versions. The year 1949 marked a critical transition. America was settling into post-war peace. The Marshall Plan was rebuilding Europe. The Cold War had begun to cast its long shadow, and at home, prosperity was slowly returning. It was in this context that the Lincoln wheat penny for 1949 was struck. Made of copper alloy, its design hadn't changed for decades, but its story was evolving. Millions were minted, but only a tiny fraction would survive in pristine condition or with the types of errors and qualities collectors now pay thousands for. The 1949 wheat penny continues the classic Lincoln design introduced in 1909. A obverse front portrait of Abraham Lincoln facing right, flanked by the words "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date 1949. To curved wheat stalks surrounding the inscriptions. 1 cent United States of America and E pluribus unum, 95%, copper, 5% tin and zinc. The San Francisco issue had the lowest mintage and is often the most sought after, especially in high grades or with rare die varieties. For most, a 1949 penny is just nostalgic pocket change, but for collectors, value varies drastically depending on grade, mint mark, and error. Some 1949 wheat pennies left the mint with striking mistakes that today are worth a fortune. Look closely at the words Liberty or the date. If there's noticeable doubling, you might be holding a coin worth $500 to $2,000 or more, common in both D and S varieties. When the mint mark was stamped more than once at slightly different angles, it creates a doubling effect. RPMs are highly collectible and can fetch $100 to $800 plus depending on sharpness. While not as dramatic, they still increase value, particularly on high-grade coins. Color and luster, red coins that retain their original mint brilliance are far more valuable than brown or dull coins. Strike quality. A well-struck coin with sharp details can command a premium. Condition and grade. The higher the grade MS65+, the rarer and more valuable it becomes. Combine 1935 and the first to feature a real person, President Dwight D. Eisenhower. The coin honors both Eisenhower the Victorious, Allied Supreme Commander in World War II and 34th U.S. President, and the Apollo 11 moon landing, with the reverse showing an eagle landing on the moon. Inspired by the mission patch. It was designed by Frank Gasparo, then chief engraver of the U.S. Mint. The obverse features Eisenhower's profile, facing left. The inscriptions include a mint mark for Denver D or San Francisco S under Eisenhower's neck. The reverse shows the American bald eagle landing on the lunar surface, holding an olive branch, a bold symbol of peace through strength. Now here's where it gets fascinating. 1970 to Philadelphia minted. Coins have 3 different reverse varieties, and one of them is extremely rare. For the 1972 Philadelphia coin, there are Type 1, Type 2, and Type 3 reverse designs. Each has subtle differences in the depiction of Earth above, the eagle's head on the reverse, most common low relief. Weak Earth details. Extremely rare Earth is rounded with very low relief and little definition in the islands, found only in a tiny percentage of 1972 Ike's. Stronger relief. Clear Earth and island detail more common than Type 2 but less than Type 1. The Type 2 reverse is the key rarity, less than 1 in 100,000. 1972 coins have it. It can sell for $1,500 to $7,000 depending on condition and grade. The value of a 1972 Eisenhower dollar can range from face value to thousands of dollars, depending on these factors: mint mark and type, especially the Philadelphia. Type to condition. Grade MS65 and up is rare. Strike quality, sharp details, minimal contact marks, color luster clean, bright fields and uncirculated. 197 to D. Proof coin in PR70 deep. Cameo can go for $800 to $2,000. And the Holy Grail, a 1970 to Type 2 MS66 coin, has sold for over $10,000 in rare instances. Like many coins from the early 1970s, the Eisenhower dollar is rich with mint errors. Struck on wrong planchet, an Ike struck on a clad quarter or foreign coin blank can fetch $5,000 plus. Double die obverse or reverse, doubling on the lettering, especially Liberty or the date. Off-center strikes. Partial coins with missing sections or skewed imagery. Coins with the crescent cut, missing die cracks and cuts, raised bumps or missing sections on the rim. Each of these errors adds hundreds or even thousands of dollars to the coin's value. The Eisenhower dollar was never widely loved in its time. It was too large, too heavy, and awkward to carry. Banks didn't request them often, and the public barely used them. Most 1972 Eisenhower dollars were stored away, spent quickly, or used in casinos. That widespread indifference is what makes the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. It marked a dramatic departure from previous U.S. coinage. For the first time, a real historical figure appeared on an American coin, designed by Victor David Brenner. The penny featured Lincoln's profile on the obverse, and two wheat stalks on the reverse, symbolizing prosperity and national strength. For over 50 years, this design would define America's 1-cent piece. The 1935 edition was struck during a time of slow recovery from the Great Depression, adding layers of economic and emotional significance to its legacy. Each era type adds rarity and uniqueness, and collectors aggressively hunt for them, especially in uncirculated condition. In 1935, the United States was still climbing out of the Great Depression. People weren't saving coins for collections, they were spending every cent to survive. The few mint state 1935 pennies that exist today likely came from sealed bank rolls or mint bags, untouched for decades. Most of those are already in collector hands or graded slabs, making fresh discoveries increasingly rare. That's why a 1935 penny in MS67 road condition with full red luster and no wear is not just rare, it's extraordinary. Here are just a few highlights from major coin sales. A 1935 MS67 road Lincoln, cents sold for $4,200 at Heritage Auctions. 1935 DMS67 road went for $3,800 due to near-perfect surfaces and blazing red color. 1935p with a double die obverse fetched over $2,500 in an Aerocoin auction. The numbers tell the story. These coins are no longer just 1-cent pieces. They're historical assets. Rare 1935. Wheat pennies can still be found if you know where to search. Old coin albums or jars, especially family collections, estate sales, and antique shops often overlooked by non-collectors. Coin roll hunts, unsearched. Wheat penny rolls from dealers or auctions. Bank vault collections, retired. Rolls from long-forgotten storage. The key is condition. Even if you find a 1935 penny, its true value depends on how well to thousands of dollars in collector value. So take a closer look the next time you handle an old
year was 1950. World War II had ended just 5 years earlier. The United States was riding the wave of post-war growth. Factories were busy. Families were booming. And the American dream was spreading across suburbs and cities. But at the US Mint, things were shifting. Coin production began to slow compared to wartime years. People were saving again. The need for pennies dropped. That slowdown resulted in lower mintage numbers. Which means today, fewer high-grade 1950 wheat pennies have survived. Especially in brilliant, uncirculated condition. Abraham Lincoln's right-facing bust. With liberty on the left, in God we trust above. And the date 1950 on the right. 2 wheat stalks flanking the words 1 cent and United States of America. With E pluribus unum at the top. May seem high, survival in mint state red condition untouched. Brilliant and uncirculated is surprisingly low. That's where the value begins. The value of a 1950 wheat penny depends entirely on condition and rarity of mint errors. Here's a basic breakdown. What separates a common penny from a collector's prize is often a mint mistake. A die break between off-center strikes, coins that were not centered properly when struck. A curved missing edge caused during blank production. These can fetch $200 to $800 plus. Even small anomalies, if verified and certified, can boost a coin's market price dramatically. Several 1950 wheat pennies have surprised experts at auction. Rare off-center strike 1950 D brought $1,100 on eBay. Certified double die example sold privately for over $2,000. The demand for vintage US coins, especially those with character and pristine preservation, continues to rise. By 1950, the Lincoln wheat cent had been in production for over 40 years. But change was coming. In less than a decade, the wheat design would be replaced by the Lincoln Memorial reverse. That makes the 1950 issue part of the final chapter in one of the longest-running coin series in US history. It also holds symbolic value. It's a coin from an America emerging from war, reinventing its economy and setting its course for the modern era. Each coin minted carries not just metal and marks but memory. Although it's been over 70 years since these coins were struck, they still appear in old jars and attic boxes passed down through families. The key is condition. Look for sharp features. Red copper shine, no scratches. And a strong strike. If you find one in brilliant uncirculated shape or with a mint error, you may have something worth hundreds or even thousands. The 1950 Liberty wheat penny isn't flashy. It doesn't scream rare. But sometimes the quietest coins carry the loudest stories. In its surface lies a hapter of American recovery.